Faithfully delivering value by interpreting the world's best books. Hello, this is Sally's Book Talk. Hi to all listeners of Sally's Book Talk. I'm Guy Wenhao, the editor-in-chief. Last Saturday, we recommended a book to everyone that's as renowned as Jin Yang, the classic masterpiece by Mr. Gao Yang, a famous historical novelist from Taiwan, is called The Complete Biography of Empress Dowager Cixi. Actually, this book was introduced and published in mainland China quite early, around the 1980s or 1990s. I believe many of our readers may still remember this book or even really loved it. And recently, it's been reprinted. This complete biography of Empress Dowager Cixi is a massive work with 10 volumes. It's not just a record of her life, but an encyclopedia of the late Qing period. With Cixi's entire life as the main thread, it starts from Emperor Shanfun's death in Ruihei to her alliance with Prince Gong to seize power from regents like Su Xun, then to her regency behind the curtain, all the way to her death and police succession. The novel spans over 40 years because there are so many events to cover, and Gao Yang is a truly outstanding historical novelist. Speaking of this, I'd also like to recommend another work by Gao Yang, because I'm a huge fan myself. You might recall the popular TV series Hu Shuiyan from a few years back, based on his famous historical novel series. So as I mentioned, Gao Yang is incredibly prolific and there's tons of historical facts and anecdotes. Therefore, to present this book's content more fully, we've split it into two parts for our explanation. So next Monday, you and all our friends will hear the second part of this complete biography of Empress Dowager Cixi. This reflects Sally's Book Talk's special focus on this classic. After hearing the Empress Dowager Cixi story, next Tuesday, we'll interpret a classic investment book for you called Templeton Teaches You Contrarian Investing. The subtitle is The Long-Term Winning Investment Method that profits steadily in both bull and bear markets. Speaking of Templeton, if you listeners in the investment world know him, he's basically a global icon in investing. A master figure, worshipped by many. Forbes magazine even called him one of the most successful fund managers in history. How successful was he? Oh, let's just give an example. If you invested $1 with him in 1940, 50 years later, you'd get $55 million. So how did this legendary fund manager achieve it? Throughout his 70-year investment career, he consistently stuck to a special investment method. This investment method is actually an open secret in the investing world, but the specific operational details aren't easy to pull off. This is the famous method called contrarian investing. What is contrarian investing? Let's give another simple example. For instance, in 2001, after the 9/11 terrorist attacks, there was global panic. The U.S. stock market halted trading for several days and didn't reopen until September 17th. On the day it reopened, the U.S. stock market plummeted, and many people started selling frantically without caring about the cost. But right at that moment, Templeton started buying airline stocks that were crashing. Why? He bet that the government wouldn't let the airline industry collapse. 6 months later, the companies he bought reached up to 72% returns, which is a staggering number. So you see, when the public is extremely pessimistic, going against the flow is contrarian investing. The authors of this book are Templeton's grandniece and her husband, who are his close relatives and worked closely with him for years. They detail many classic cases of his success with contrarian investing throughout his life. In these cases, you can learn what the logical foundation of contrarian investing is. How can we identify the extreme point of pessimism in public sentiment? How can you manage to buy bravely when everyone else is pessimistic? You could say this book is both Templeton's personal biography and a vivid, practical textbook on contrarian investing. Then next Wednesday, we'll interpret a book called Life 3.0. Its subtitle is Being Human in the Age of Artificial Intelligence. The author of this book, Max Tegmark, is a tenured professor in the physics department at MIT. Besides researching physics problems, he's also fascinating because he excels at using physics thinking to solve all kinds of cross-disciplinary challenges. So he's known in the industry as the scientist closest to Richard Feynman. We previously covered him on Sally's Book Talk with a book called Crossing Parallel Universes, which is also his masterpiece. When the English version of Life 3.0 was released, it immediately gained global attention. Renowned physicist Stephen Hawking endorsed it, and Elon Musk, founder of Tesla, and Yuval Noah Harari, author of Sapiens, all praised it. Within just one day of its release, it topped Amazon's rankings for AI and machine learning books, and then exploded in Silicon Valley. In Life 3.0, this top physicist spent 5 years gathering insights from nearly 1,000 AI industry leaders, covering the broadest range of AI topics to date. The most credible scientific imagination. For example, when will AI surpassing human intelligence appear? What are the 12 possible outcomes for humanity when AI surpassing human intelligence emerges? What key issues should we grasp at present? Developing AI that benefits humanity in a future destined to coexist with AI. What is the meaning of being human? This book makes the boldest imaginings about humanity's future. The entire book constructs a new understanding of future life, technology, culture, and society. So if you're also interested in the future of society and humanity's place in it, look forward to our interpretation of this book next Wednesday. In today's society, we've mentioned several times on the show that people are increasingly valuing children's education, hoping kids have better upbringing to be welcomed wherever they go. But unfortunately, we often find that as the economy improves and wallets get thicker, upbringing doesn't necessarily follow. We often see many unruly kids running around in restaurants, sometimes standing on subway seats without taking off their shoes, or casually picking up stones to scratch cars, and in severe cases, habitually stealing others' belongings. These are common issues in family education. So what should parents do to ensure their children have better upbringing? Next Thursday and Friday, we'll be recommending 2 parenting books in a row. Next Thursday, we'll interpret a book by Chen He-kin, a renowned Chinese educator, child psychologist, and founder of modern early childhood education in China. His book is titled Family Education. When first published, the famous educator Tao Xingzi wrote a preface titled, "May all parents in the world read this together," calling it the most valuable work in Chinese education at that time. Initially, Chen He-kin, like many young parents, found child rearing extremely challenging. When children cried, he didn't know why. When they wanted food, he didn't know what to feed them. When children wanted to learn singing, he didn't know how to teach. But gradually, after having 2 children, he focused his research on observing and practicing with his own kids, systematically documenting everything that happened to them. He filled at least a dozen notebooks. Most material in family education comes from these records, with the 101 educational principles representing his deep understanding of family education, theory, and methods. Next Friday, we'll interpret another parenting book called Growing Up Together with Your Child is the Best Parenting. The author, Yuba, original name Zhang Mingsheng, was a children's book editor with extensive experience in planning and editing parenting books. Later, he quit to become a full-time dad, compiling this book from daily interactions with his son and reflections on parenting, offering solutions to family upbringing issues. Finally, Yasunari Kawabata. I believe many Sally's Book Talk listeners know this name well. A towering figure in Japanese literature, he won the 1968 Nobel Prize for Snow Country, The Old Capitol, and Thousand Cranes. Next Saturday, we'll recommend another of his works, a book acclaimed alongside Thousand Cranes as a pinnacle of Japanese literature, The Sound of the Mountain. This book uses an essayistic style from a patriarch's perspective to depict the Shingo family's story. The protagonist, Shingo, has entered old age, his life monotonous, his wife increasingly distant, his son having affairs, his daughter's marriage troubled, all causing him deep pain. Ah, amidst this unconscious pain, Shingo developed subtle feelings for his daughter-in-law. So in daily life, he often favored his daughter-in-law, causing imbalance in his children's relationships and creating a strange atmosphere in the household. The novel's subject matter seems ordinary, just fragmented family routines like those around us. But through the author's lens, these ordinary words and trivial household matters reveal profound meanings. So, if you've read or enjoy Kawabata's works, besides Snow Country and The Old Capitol, please explore The Sound of the Mountain. All right, that's our book list for next week. About Sally's Book Talk, let me share another advertisement. We hope listeners who love audiobooks and Sally's Book Talk will join our core fan community to listen and read together. Thank you for listening today.